All right, Reed, you're going live in 5, 4. Andrew, mute yourself. 3. I'm muting myself.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the next part of the pod in a new segment we like to call Reed's Football Fables. Now journey back with me to May 19th, 2012. The Football League Championship Playoff. Wembley, West Ham United versus Blackpool. Two clubs that have since mirrored each other's trajectories. The game's first blood is Tom Ince, the now sometimes coveted Derby County player.
Do it again.
Yep, okay, thank you. One last take. Hey guys, and welcome back to the next part of the pod in a new segment we like to call Reed's Football Fables. Journey back with me, May 19th, 2012. The championship playoff final. It's Blackpool versus West Ham United. The game that's sparked off by a Carlton Cole goal, countered by Tom Ince. In a moment that has come to define each club in a different way. A Ricardo Vazte goal off a rebounded Carlton Cole shot. Since then, Blackpool find themselves as a mid-table League Two side. For those not overly familiar with outside of the Premier League English football, League Two is the fourth tier of English football. Well, West Ham are, with their ups and downs, an ambitious top 6 hunting Premier League side. And there's a beautiful mirroring of the paths they've taken since this game. And it's not very often in football, that, especially in the highest level, that you see a single point in time where you can point to that separates two clubs as distinctly as West Ham and Blackpool. Recently, with the Payet fiasco, there's been a bit of a drift, especially the Payet fiasco and the London Stadium. There's been a bit of a drift between the West Ham fans and the ownership. But it must be said, in comparison to how Blackpool have been owned and led, they're a shining example. Even looking to the sides that participated in that day, with the likes of Winston Reid, Mark Noble, and James Tompkins, all in the starting 11, and names that are still familiar to the club, where Blackpool does not have anything similar to that. There's not a single player from that day still on the roster, still on the books. It says a lot about what they brought to the day and what they left with it. Not very often is there a moment of inflection where two teams take such different paths as League Two obscurity, a once great club now burning, and a club with hope. Not much else, but an undying capacity for hope. And not much separated these two clubs before this day. Sure, West Ham might have a bit of a deeper history, but no Blackpool fan will admit that. But this moment, that Vazte goal, separated them, probably forever.
Reed, that was just absolutely touching.
It was better, right? It was so much better.
That was a good take.
I know.
It was
that was better.
It was the only good take.
Okay, now you have to intro yourself back in
Don't you
some
have to ask
not
the people what they
awkward
want on social media?
transition and be and ask Andrew and I some questions.
Okay. So, guys, have you ever seen something like that? Have you ever seen a sporting story with that much allegory behind it, that much meaning behind a single moment of a game? I haven't. For me, that almost defines West Ham, and I wonder if you guys can find that in your North London clubs, we'll call them, for lack of a more denigrating word.
Well, I like my sense of tradition to come from the fact that Arsenal was founded by and first played by a bunch of guys that literally worked in an Arsenal. They were part of a bunch of gunsmiths that came together and played football and won their first ever match 6-0. So, we got some tradition. We also just happen to be, one of the best teams of all time in England.
Yeah, you did have that. You did have that sin as the Invincibles. It might be a little bit.
Yeah, West Ham's old and all, but they're not quite Arsenal.
I did intro this part, and I didn't read out Jack Kelly's football fables. All right.
You're right.
I pull that back.
You're right. This is Reed's football fables.
Reed's football fables.
Nonetheless, that I gave you the segment.
That doesn't mean we have to create an alternate history, though.
That's true.
Where West Ham are better than Spurs and
That's true.
Arsenal.
You know what? Let a boy dream.
Well, then, Andrew, what do you think? What do you think of West Ham's tradition and having to come back up from the championship? LOL.
Well, it's interesting, actually. In my fairly short time, 10 years of watching the Premier League, I actually think of West Ham as a team with great resilience and great grit, and a team that actually is. I kind of enjoy that about them, actually. I'm not saying this to denigrate at all, but when I came in to watching the Premier League, they were a team very much kind of on the brink between the Premiership and Championship. And in the past couple of years, they've established themselves more. So I kind of am very much aware of the forces at play that Reed was talking about in his fable.
Yeah, no, and that is returning to a little bit more of a realistic point of they are a yo-yo club, but that's almost what drew me to them when I first
but less
came.
so
in.
now. That's the thing.
Less so now, but
established themselves.
But it's more of a facade than a reality for the fans, though. Because for the fans, last season was great, but it's not too distant of a memory, to taste our own blood. And it is that capacity for hope within the club that I think really is the shining light. And I think that is really what that vast take goal and that beautiful, beautiful commentary highlight.
Yeah, that's brilliant. In that sense, obviously the sound clip that we all heard is very awe-inspiring. I guess that is something that some football fans, myself included, and many other football fans around the world, they're kind of spoiled because they're Arsenal finishes fourth, and I'm like, well, pissed, we had a bad season. West Ham goes down, and people are like, wow, we had a bad season. So I don't know. Not so much that West Ham is a small club, but certainly not the heights of Tottenham or Arsenal.
Well, one thing, Reed, I kind of thought of when listening to your fable. When I first, at the very beginning of watching the Premier League, I really got into it because I read a book by Chuck Culpepper where he became a Portsmouth fan. So the only team I knew when I started watching Premier League was Portsmouth, and who have had some very well-documented troubles. So I still keep tabs on Portsmouth to this day. So it's just very interesting. Also, being a Spurs fan, thinking we're not going to get relegated. We're probably not going to get relegated next year. We're probably not going to get relegated the year after. But it's a very different perspective, as Jack was talking about. Yeah. And your fate can very much turn on a whim. One loss can really screw your club for a decade or more.
Yeah, look at Leicester right now. True. English champions, final 16 of the Champions League, and they're 5 points above the drop. Yeah, they lose a couple bad games, and they could be back in the championship.
Yeah,
which would be absolute ludicrous, but it could happen.
And I think that's a major thing that the money takes away nowadays. Is it gives clubs and it gives supporters a false sense of immortality that really just didn't exist before. Outside of Liverpool, almost everyone has had to have their eye over their back, Yeah,
I would just like to point out there's only one club in history of England to have been promoted to the first division to never go back down.
Villa, right?
Anybody know what club? Anybody know what club that is?
Oh boy.
It's just the Arsenal Gunners. Yeah, just the Arsenal Gunners. Well, guys, we're gonna step away and come back and talk about some transfers and some rumors that are flying currently. We all hoped you enjoyed Reed's Football Fables quite as much as Andrew and I did. They will be back next week for the midweek edition once again. But yeah, let us know on Twitter. Those of you that are fans of the quote-unquote yo-yo clubs, what's it like to live in constant fear of your team bouncing down and then bouncing back up into the Prem? And yeah, so you can tweet at us at Point to the Spot. Of course, that's with the number 2, Point to the Spot. And we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with some transfers. That's going to be the roughest fucking second half of the pod we are ever going to have.
Mm-hmm.
The final product was quite cool, though, I thought.
Yeah, it worked out well. We got very football ramble like there, and it was fun. But now I have to bring. Oh fuck! I have to bring back up my transfer list that I want to go through because it's fun.
What are they, Jack?
Oh, you are so gross.
Man, that was a quesadilla burp right there.